All right, hey there. Thanks for being here today. This is a second part in our video series, and today we're going to focus on 10 things educators need to know about software before using AI. And part of the hope here is that, hey, to really start thinking critically about AI, the ethics, the security, the privacy, and also how to use it or teach about it, it's actually really, really important to know a little bit about what the software community is doing because it's like they're the 1% of the world who's really driving and taking advantage of AI right now. And as educators, we might be able to change that if we think about software a little differently. And so to do that, we have a fantastic person here today. His name is Edwin Zhao. He is a mid-career software developer. He works on managing large-scale software teams and integrating AI into these teams. But at the same time, he's doing his PhD in education. So he is absolutely fantastic to care about education, learning, teaching. He's bridging the software and education worlds. He speaks 5 languages. I could go on. He's really just a fantastic human being. Edwin, thank you for being here today. Or just say a little hello.
Yeah, thanks for the intro. Thanks. It's great to be here.
Thanks, Edwin. So we'll hop right in. We're going to quickly walk through 10 things that Edwin and I have kind of chatted about we think are really useful for the everyday person and educator to hear and think with. And some of the language Edwin's going to talk about, it's just important to kind of let that soak into your head. And I'll put little prompts to kind of help us think through some of these things as well. But again, it's like, hey, here's 10 things we should all be knowing and talking about. So first one, folks might have some understanding of like a software bug, Edwin, right? Like you're doing something in software, something goes wrong, and you get like a red error message. Oh no, right? But hang on, with AI tools, you don't get those same kind of bugs. What does that mean? What happens? Why is that important for AI systems?
Yeah, AI can fail silently. It can make things up with fake citations or invented statistics, with all of it looking nice and perfect. The failure is basically invisible when you talk to it. As you've mentioned, traditional software will crash or throw errors, show red signs, but AI fails by just sounding right because these AIs are built on a strategy called large language models. They're just prediction engines. They try to guess what the next best word is based on the trading data. I think a lot of people forget that these aren't actually thinking or knowing AIs. They're just matching the pattern to what they've seen before.
So for the everyday person, the educator, of course, when an AI is incorrect or fails, it's not going to tell you, right? And as long as we're relying on LLMs, that's going to stay with us, right? Really important thing for us all to understand. And how software developers, I guess, test these AI tools is really difficult too, because they can't even test them to understand how they're failing very well. Sound roughly right?
Yeah, there's an infinite amount of use cases, so it's really difficult to test every single one, which is why you've potentially heard on the news about some crazy AI leaks or AI use cases that, companies had to patch. As found in a metrics report for software in 2025, it highlights that AI magnifies the strengths of high performers and it also magnifies the dysfunctions of struggling ones. So you can really see that if you are unable to see these failures, it becomes really obvious in how you use the tool.
So some of these things are really relevant to folks who care about equity in education and these other kinds of things when you start understanding these things. Great. All right. Number two, same input, different output. I think some people have a rough idea of this. What does that mean? Why is it important?
Yeah, so sometimes you ask the AI the same question twice, and you might get two different answers. The AI will basically predict the next most likely word built on with a little bit of built-in randomness. And that randomness is not a flaw. It's just to get some creativity in the AI without it responding and sounding the exact same every single time. So you can ask the same question, but in different sessions or across different tools, and you may get wildly different answers with the AI thinking that is completely correct each time.
That's really helpful, Edwin. I think in a little bit here, we'll talk a little bit more about not touching the first draft and those kinds of things to think about dealing with this same input, different output. But again, that is something that's going to be very much with us if we stay in the LLM, large language model world, right? Um,
Yep.
number three, number three, I think at this point, everyone has been talking about prompting. A lot of our AI literacy and education work is built on prompting. However, for the last year in the software community, everyone's throwing out prompting and talking about context, context engineering. What is context? How are software developers thinking about it? And why is that so important for educators right now?
Yeah, prompt engineering really only took into perspective the initial part of talking to your AI. How do you talk to the AI? How do you deal with how it thinks and with the prediction model? So now the shift has definitely moved all to context engineering. And that's basically giving AI briefing packet with a bunch of the information that you need as much as possible so that you can give it an effective working memory to be able to so that you can give it an effective working memory to be able to accomplish your tasks with higher accuracy. Prompt engineering really only focuses on one part of it, whereas context engineering gives it the background, examples, constraints, goals, and even reference materials. Like instead of prompt engineering, where you would just tell the AI to write a certain report, you may now potentially give it with context engineering some examples of what you think that report should look like, any constraints, or any references that it may need to be able to write it in a certain style.
That is so helpful. I love this idea of a briefing packet. I think a lot of people will understand that. Instead of a single prompt, please do this, right? It's like you're going to give it a set of files that helps it think about tasks and things you want to do. And that's like the briefing packet. And that jumps right into number four to start doing context engineering and some of the things with AI to go beyond prompting. You got to go beyond a chat box. What does that mean? What are the new tools that people need to think about to go beyond the chat box?
Yeah, working in a chat box is like writing a text message, right? Because we've shifted from prompt engineering to context engineering, you need to share images and multiple files, potentially some third party data, and manage multiple contexts. To be able to create this working memory using AI, you'll need something more complex. Even if you're drafting prompts in Google Docs, that's a huge upgrade from just writing something into the chat box of your AI tool. So when you work with the context, you'll need a proper editor of some sort. In software industry, we use a tool called VS Code from Microsoft, and sometimes we use the terminal as well, which is on the computer. So then we are able to share images and attach files directly to the conversation with AI to be able to have more complex drafts.
Yeah. So one simple takeaway, and we're going to do future videos on this, but folks out there, educators, everyone, learning to use a simple tool to manage your files and edit them quickly is going to be crucial to actually use and take advantage and critique AI in the future. So I think that's a great set of points that you're pointing out there, Edwin. Number five, agents, sub-agents, AI takes action. The terms agent and sub-agent have been huge for the last year in the software community. Most folks in the world and a lot of educators may have heard those terms, maybe, probably not. What do they mean? Why are they important? What is the world we are about to walk into with agents and sub-agents?
Yeah, AI has generally been a conversation chat box, and recently it's been able to create more and more things, if you've noticed, within the UI, uh, within the within the user interface. We've moved mostly from AI that just responds to AI that can actually perform actions for you.
Mm.
Agents basically can take these actions autonomously. Sub agents can break these complex tasks into focus pieces with a clean context. So instead of working with your single working memory and context of your AI, you can now have multiple mini AI that have their own memory and can perform their own tasks like checking your email, browsing the web, doing some research, and all of it can come back together into your main conversation without using too much of your context so that you can perform more tasks with less
Mm-hmm.
effort.
So maybe, building off your briefing packet idea earlier, it's like the world we're about to walk into. If you know just a little bit, you can start building your own agents to do things, build multiple of them, have sub agents, task them all to do little things, and then your role is kind of like orchestrating and managing them. And now it's like we're walking in a world where if multiple people start doing this, AI agents are going to start doing work like socially together, right? And we're starting to see different platforms and technologies to come out. But for the everyday educator, to jump from a briefing packet to be able to build your own like autonomous agent is a big, big deal and something everyone can do, but so many people don't even have access to, right? Yet, Edwin? Is that kind of generally
Yeah,
right?
it's very limited on the user interfaces right now. So a lot of people aren't even taking advantage of this great
Yeah.
feature.
And we'll probably see some changes over this year on that, but I think a goal in our future videos is to give a little more help to folks to start using these things, right? Because they're really important. All right, number six, never trust the first draft. Standard in software, when we shift to AI, how is that operating? How should an educator think about that?
Yeah, nobody really deploys code without some code review, and that same norm should apply to AI as well. Think of it as your intern, right? You can review everything and adjust early to avoid them going down the wrong path for a few days and coming back with the complete wrong answer, or just chatting endlessly until the context degrades and then you get lower quality answers regardless. Uh, in professional software, code review is a standard. We add automation as well so that we can set these rules out of the box so that when someone needs to make a code change, they know exactly what goes wrong, when, and how to adjust it immediately. Closing that feedback loop as small as possible. And that's the same thing about AI. When you talk to it, give it a prompt, you never want to trust the first draft because there's always some sort of edge case that you may have missed or something that the AI may have
Mm-hmm.
misunderstood.
So, again, for the everyday person, the educator, if you're working with AI, prompting, if you've given it a briefing packet, context, right? Whatever it spits out, you want to have some back and forth and maybe try three or four different scenarios, right? Before you kind of, whittle down to whatever you're doing, right? So, whether you're building a website or doing these other things. And I think folks have probably heard the term human in the loop, but I think what you're talking about, beyond just thinking about that, is the real role of people in reviewing AI outputs in the future, whether it's in education or software. And that's radically changing, but don't trust people who just take the people out, right? Like you want to keep the people in a reviewing type of position, right, Edwin? That kind of feels important.
Yeah, it's even more important with the shift of AI to have people who can review effectively
Yeah.
and to steer the conversations in the right way.
That's a great, and I think we're hearing a lot from big tech. Sometimes, hey, AI replacing humans for this and that, and I think what we're talking about here is the important role of reviewing. That is crucial to never trusting the first draft in this broader point, right? So, all right, number seven, learn patterns, not tools. I think educators, people are starting to become overwhelmed by the number of AI tools coming out. Talk about what it means to learn patterns, not tools, and how that might help people think through this.
Yeah, there's tools that are changing weekly. There's new features being released with all of these tools. It's really important to learn the transferable patterns like context management, iteration, verification, and so forth. ChatGPT might release a brand new shiny button every other week, but these things may disappear just as easily. So it's important to really learn the strategies that work across any of these tools. The specific tool is really just a vehicle for you to be able to accomplish what you need using AI.
Yeah,
The landscape shifts weekly, and even in the software industry, it's hard for us to keep up with it as
yeah,
well.
that's a good point.
So any specific tool may be gone in the next year or next couple months. Um, Learning these menus and buttons of the tool is learning these menus and buttons of the tool is a way to sort of pigeonhole your thinking when it comes to utilizing AI because there's a lot of durable patterns that exist outside of it. We are seeing more and more named techniques like a Ralph Wiggum's technique where
Mm.
it's an iterative loop where you progress on files, it creates its own memory and it really repeats itself and it's tool agnostic. It could be brought with any AI learning model. Yeah.
Really helpful, Edwin. And maybe a goal of our video series is certainly to think at a pattern level and help people not just focus on tools or be overwhelmed, right? To think about some of these patterns. And even that last one you brought up, I don't know, for a person working at, a writer or something, you could build a critical reviewer A and a critical reviewer B. And then you could give them some draft of a paper or something you're writing. And then you can just have them endlessly for 100 times go back and forth refining the paper. This idea of kind of putting agents into loops is another pattern we're going to start to see in the future. So many tools are going to be using it. So that's a great set of points there, Edwin. And we'll talk about these things more in future videos, right? All right, the simplicity is engineered. What does that mean, and why is it important for so many reasons for people?
Yeah, the interface that a lot of people have been using to talk to AI is very simple and very effortless, but there's a lot of complexity that sits behind it. And it's really by design that they make it as easy as possible to use. But there's a trade off. Behind that text box sits a bunch of infrastructure, AI algorithms, prompts, filters, and design decisions that you'll never see. It feels like you're just texting someone and sending messages, so your brain can treat it very casually. However, as we've learned over time, as AI become more and more mainstream, there's a lot of different strategies that we need to employ to be able to deal with the different ways that these companies have formed their systems around learning AI models. So the designs that shape what the AI will and won't say can really affect how you interact with it. So if the interface was, sorry, and if the interface was a little more complex, then it would be a little more difficult for users to get into it. However, then there would be a trade off of being able to control the infrastructure with those tools and strategies that we learned before, as opposed to just interacting with the high level wrapped company out of the box experience.
And two takeaways I'm having, I think it's important for people when you're saying this is first, understand that all the simple versions of AI tools in the chatbots hide so many ways of using AI. And that's why you got to get beyond them to really critique AI, think with it, and make it do things for you, or just come back to big tech or whoever you're kind of critiquing against, right? You've got to be able to go beyond the simple interfaces that are designed here. And two, I think it's an important point. You know, the number of different tools that are coming out now that might actually start to show some of these features is a really, really interesting space. It would be great if we see more tools doing that. And I think we are. Those might actually be the best kinds of tools for education and educators, right? So we're just starting to see that. Number nine, software is never finished. What does that mean? Why is it important when we're talking about AI software development and for educators and everyday people?
Yeah, software is basically a living being. It gets patched, updated, changed, sometimes degraded constantly. And any adoption decision is really just a snapshot of its current state and time and never a permanent choice. So your AI policy needs to grow alongside of it. The software is never finished. And as companies try to push out more and more features to try to get their name on Wall Street, um, there's always going to be new features that are either broken or removed or added. There may be pricing changes, privacy policies updated so they can collect more of your data. So these adoption decisions really need to just be snapshots and not permanent choices. That's why in our previous point, where patterns are definitely a lot more important than tools, the tools are really a moving target. The patterns will really stick across whatever ends up being
Mm-hmm.
the AI landscape, either today or a year from now. Because the tool that you evaluated last semester is not going to be the same tool that you're using today. And there's just extremes to both of that.
Really helpful. And maybe another thing you made me think of is software has always designed, we've always released tools that are unfinished. They're constantly evolving, but AI tools are now being released at a rate and in a state that is absurd. Folks are just chucking AI tools on the market in total beta development. And now a lot of that is going to put AI onto your computers and doing all sorts of things, right? So it's really important for an educator and everyday person to understand all these AI companies, and perhaps you said this earlier, the wrapper companies, the 90% of other companies, many of whom are trying to partner with educators now, who just put like a little wrapper on AI and kind of drop it in as a new product. All of this is like beta development for the most part. Things are evolving so quickly. People are putting stuff on the market that's like 20% developed sometimes. I don't know to put a number on it, Edwin. Does that roughly sound right? Something like that?
20 even feels high sometimes.
Oh man, yeah, yeah. Okay, I was being generous. All right. It's really helpful, Edwin. Okay, well, it gets into the last kind of point we want to make. Free AI is about to become really, really low quality AI. Folks in software development know this. For the most part, everyday people and even educators don't understand, haven't seen this yet. What does this mean? Why do you believe this?
Yeah, so when your text and conversation goes to the AI company and to their servers, it gets processed and it may be stored to train future models. Some platforms have an opt-out feature that says don't train my data, but it's up in the air on how much you can trust that for now. For now, as you see these free tools, so for now, if you see a tool that's for free, you're not really paying to use it, but you yourself are the product for that company. The free tiers are going to be increasingly using older and less capable models at throttled speeds, and you're not going to be able to use these latest and greatest new techniques sometimes or more performant models as well. So they're going to really be pushing users towards using a paid model because a lot of these free AI will have these restrictions and potential privacy issues as well. Before you use these tools, you really have to evaluate where does the data go, who has access, where it is, will it be used for training, and can you even delete your own information? And then
Mm.
at the end of that, you have to determine whether or not this company can be even trusted on what it said about it.
Yeah. So stepping back and saying, adding on and thinking with you here a little bit, we are about to walk into an age where free AI is going to become something very different. It's going to have tons of ads. It's going to use your data in ways that you do not consent to. Most likely, you can't even select it, even if you click a button and say, don't share my data. Don't believe it, right? We're going to be seeing models in the free tiers that run slow, that aren't good, that give you horrible answers generally. And all this is forcing all of us to start paying for AI, which in some sense, doesn't have to all be a terrible thing, right? But we need to understand the difference between free versions of AI, the paid versions, and the different tiers in them, and some of the enormous access and equity issues that are going to come because of this for educators. It's going to be huge, right? So we need to be talking about kind of this idea, hey, free AI is changing. It's about to change really rapidly this year. That all feel roughly in line with what you're saying too?
Yep, yep.
Great. Well, Edwin, thank you so much for being here. We wanted to do this quickly, succinctly for the broader education community and faculty, staff working in education schools. In the next few videos, me and you are going to be diving into kind of specific technical things, a simple way to work with AI, building a website in 10 minutes, thinking about how to make a meaningful agent, just some of the examples. So we'll create those over the next few weeks, and we're excited to get to that. But thank you for your time. Thank you for doing this. I think it's really, really hard to talk across software development and education. And it's urgent for all of us to be doing that. So thank you, Edwin.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
All right, everyone else, have a great day.